What's up, fantasy football people? Welcome back to the Fantasy Football channel. We are the Schluter Bros. Today, we are rolling with the Rams. You know what they say? Whose house? Rams house. Adam, give me your best sheep. What do you got?
I'm good on that today. I am good on that.
Okay, next one you have to do. You can't cop out of three in a row.
I want to hear your sheep bow over there. What do you got?
Bah!
All right, I got the next one.
All
Oh, I
right, how
love
you
it.
doing today, Adam?
Man, doing wonderful. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. How you doing?
Oh, I am doing wonderful.
Love that. Alrighty, folks. Today we are diving into a new segment, Rookie Watch. Going to talk about some rising rookies. We're updating NFL news and all the contract drama that is upon us. We're going to overview those LA Rams. Most importantly, breaking down all of the fantasy relevant players on this team, finishing with coaching and O-line breakdown. So grab yourself an LA lemonade or a golden horn and let's get after it. A golden horn is apparently 2 slices of ginger, pineapple juice, coconut rum, light rum, lime juice, agave nectar, and turmeric. How about that?
All right, let's go mix one up.
Absolutely. All right, new segment, guys. Rookie Watch. We're each going to dive into a few of our favorite rising rookies, and I am going to lead us off. Tedera McMillan is someone who is being slept on due to who he plays for. He is immediately the Panthers' #1 wide receiver, the 8th overall pick in the draft, and he's one of the NFL's newest biggest receivers at 6'4", 220 with a 4'4", 840. At Arizona, he had the receiving yard record at over 3,400 yards. The dude had over 300 yards in one game. For those hating on him due to Carolina, the team he's playing on, you're wrong because Carolina got significantly better last year towards the end of the season, as did Bryce Young. And what I love is that he's going to play for a team that will inevitably be behind in some games. So they're going to have to throw the ball. He's going to get some garbage time points. McMillan is a bargain going in the 6th and 7th rounds with an ADP of 62. Get him on your teams for this price.
Okay. I'm going to lay out a good old Charger running back here.
All right.
Omarion Hampton. I am rising on. The uncertainty with Najee obviously plays a big factor here.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just going to talk about in general Jim Harbaugh. We haven't done the Chargers yet, but no matter where he goes, whether it's San Francisco, Michigan, Stanford, he's always been a run heavy first kind of guy. Last year, the Chargers finished 11th in rushing with 17 touchdowns, averaging 4.1 yards a carry between Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins. Adam was very high on J.K. Dobbins
My boy Dobbins.
previously, so I'm actually just higher on the Chargers' running ability in general. And then you bring in a high draft capital stud like Hampton. In college, this guy was a beast. 2023 finished with 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. In 2024, he ran for 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns. So I'm very watching his ADP as we move closer and start drafting. I continuing see it bump up, bump up, bump up.
Yep.
So I think something to monitor. Obviously, you got to watch Najee. It's really just how much is Najee going to be annoying, I think, for him this year and how it all comes together. But I am definitely rising on Omarion Hampton.
Okay. Yeah, I like that cat a lot. And I think a lot of those rookie values kind of get bumped up as you go because you get to see them in training camp. You see film on them. You get all that kind of a talk about them. So it always bumps them up. But you're right. The Najee thing is bumping them up a little bit more as well.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. The last rookie watch for today, folks. Trey Harris, without a doubt, will become the Chargers' #2 wide receiver alongside Ladd McConkey this year. He had a phenomenal career at Ole Miss, which he caught over 900 yards in each of the last 3 seasons. He is way better than Quentin Johnson and anyone else on that roster outside of Ladd. He is a QB who can throw a perfect ball. He's 6'2", 210 pounds, and has a much better high ball threat for Herbert in the red zone. I'm going on a limb saying I expect him to have a 1,000-yard season with at least 6 TDs this year, which makes him more than fantasy relevant and a steal of a value going at ADP 132. Only knock is what Kyle mentioned earlier. It's a run-first offense, but do not sleep on Trey Harris.
Okay, let's get into some of the drama. News around here. I'm gonna say Keenan Allen is also visiting the Chargers. Hopefully, that doesn't put too much of a shade on your rookie watch here.
I wouldn't love that.
Keenan Allen was still very productive last year,
Yeah, he
even
was.
with
He,
the
he absolutely
Bears.
was. Mhm.
So something to monitor for sure.
I think he's like
Scary Terry
32.
formally requested a trade. Um, I don't know how concerning this is at this point. I think we all will believe he's going to be a Commander this year. So I'm not sure if this is just part of his negotiation tactics or what, but definitely something you got to watch and take into consideration. Why don't you grab the next two?
Yeah, Mika Parsons update. Jerry Jones told his fans not to lose any sleep over this. And let's face some facts here. Mika Parsons is still under contract. He can't do anything without Jerry Jones moving his hand to do it. Jerry Jones has outwardly said he's going to be a Cowboy. He wants him to be a Cowboy. Why does he play around and wait this out and do all these things? I don't know, but that's just what Jerry Jones does. I think he just likes the game
He
of it.
likes the
I think he likes
attention.
the attention. Yep,
Yes, that's
absolutely.
exactly
It's
what it
just
is.
he's an aging man and he's trying to get every last breath of attention that he can from the media and riding it out. Okay, but Parsons is going to be a Cowboy. Like I said, he's under contract. He's not going anywhere, and they're not going to trade him or get rid of him. So everyone can quit talking about that and put that aside. He's going to be a Cowboy. Last but not least, Kyren Williams is in contract talks. He is expected to sign a 3-year, $33 million deal with $23 million guaranteed. He's deserving of that bag. We'll see if he gets it or
For
not.
sure.
It's in the air right now, but I bet they pay the man. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that'll happen.
Okay.
I think he is their running back right now. And I know they drafted another guy and Blake Corum last year, but it's still Kyren Williams' show for this
Yeah,
backfield, is my opinion.
absolutely. And we'll dive into him quite a bit today. But first, we're moving on, done with the news, and we're going to overview the LA Rams going out west, folks. The Rams last year destroyed the Vikings in the wild card game, in which Sam Darnold did not look good. Then they lost to
That
the
was
Super
the
Bowl winning.
game.
I mean, that defense is phenomenal for the Rams. They made Sam Darnold
Very
look like a
shocked. Those
fool out
two
there.
new defensive ends, how well
Oh
they
yeah,
performed their rookie year. Very
yes. They
impressive.
they are young and they fly to the ball. I love watching that defense. Then the Rams lost to the Eagles 28 to 22 in the divisional round. Rams finished last year, led the NFC West at 10-7. This is probably going to be a pretty strong division this year. The Rams total offense last year, 331 yards per game, 39 total touchdowns. Rush rank was 24th due to only 103 rushing yards per game, but 15 rushing touchdowns. Pass rank was 10th at 227 yards per game and 22 touchdowns. Kyle, the Vegas win-loss over-under is at 9.5. Where do you see it?
I'm taking 10 wins. Yep.
Just same as they were last year.
I'm not messing around. I mean, if you think about this offense, the acquisition of Davante Adams, additional depth at running back field, and they started with a very, very slow start. Puka Nacua was out, like I think the first almost 7 games completely. So, with that, they still managed 10 wins. So I think if he's healthy, that I think 10 wins is easy.
Okay. Do they take this division again? The NFC West. Seahawks, Cardinals, Niners.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm going to
Okay.
say they take it again. I think the Niners are going to be much improved.
Yeah.
I don't know about
6-11 was
Seattle as
terrible for
much.
them last year.
Yeah, but I still don't think that the 49ers have a lot going on in the receiving room. Like who's going to be there to start the season type thing. And if
Does it
McCaffrey
matter?
is healthy though and plays most of the season, they're going to be a much better team.
Yeah. Does it
Um,
matter if he gets 25 carries and 5 to 10 targets each game? That's going to be their offense.
yes, basically. But yeah, I'll take the
Yep.
Rams.
All right. That'll work. That'll work. That'll work. Their strength of schedule is 12th hardest for those LA Rams. Kyle, why don't you get us into the meat and potatoes here? Let's have a day.
Let's talk about the fantasy football players. Obviously, we all know Matt Stafford finished last year as QB 19, projected QB 20, current ADP around $160. Most one quarterback leagues, he's left available. Easily a great bye week guy, or if you want to keep him on your bench, 2 QB. I think he fits as a fine quarterback 2, quarterback 3 territory. Last year, again, a down year with missing Puka for a lot of that, and a lot of what I saw from Cooper Kupp as just not as good as he once was. Stafford had 37 yards, 20 touchdowns, 8 picks. And this year, ESPN has got him for throwing for 4,400 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 12 picks. So I mean, I could see that number being higher. Last year, I saw a lot of Kyren Williams in the end zone getting the rock and
A
scoring.
lot. Oh yeah.
They had lack of tight end play last year as well. They've made some, changes there. So I think these numbers go up for Stafford. That's how I'm looking at it initially. What's your first take?
Yeah, I mean, it's his fifth year in LA. He's 37 years old. What's interesting is how last year he only had 214 fantasy points, and ESPN is projecting him with 274 fantasy points. So a huge bump up. Last year was terrible, but Nacua was out for 6 weeks, and Cup was out for 5 weeks. And now he has Nacua healthy and a phenomenal Davante Adams.
Hmm.
So I definitely see some upside and some progression here. Kyle, do you think there's any world he can finish top 15 QB with
Yeah, I
these
mean,
new
I think
weapons?
that's the bull case for him is to be top 15. I don't think he's top 10 and certainly not top five, but top 15
Yeah.
is possible. Um, I would put him between 15 and 20 right now, and that's exactly where I have him.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I still think Kyren Williams is still going to be involved in rushing, but I do see much more touchdowns falling Stafford's way this year. And this is the caveat, a large caveat here of his health. Obviously, he's dealing with some stuff right now, back
He'll
related,
be
I believe,
fine.
and
He'll be fine.
he is an older quarterback, so not very mobile. So, I mean, I'm just going to put that caveat in there. Outside of that, I think he outperforms by a little bit his current ESPN projections, and that's where I have him.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if Nakua and Devontae are healthy the whole year, I could see him easily sneaking into 15, QB 15. If one of those guys goes down back towards the 20 end for sure.
Yeah, that's where I see him. I don't see him really going much higher, but I think he's a good, for where he's being drafted, I think he's great to either one quarterback leagues, either be on your bench if it's deep or a bye week fill in. Otherwise, two QB league super flex. I like him as QB2, QB3 territory, depending on your roster build.
Yeah. Yep. You can get him at a fair price for QB2.
Yeah, for his price, I don't mind him.
Alrighty. Diva. Diva time, baby.
Yeah, Puka Nacua finished as wide receiver 33, missing about 7 games, the first 7 games ish. Currently being projected as Diva 4. So ESPN's got this guy as the fourth receiver for fantasy this year. I just feel like this is steep. Like this is pricing in 100% best case scenario for him. Last year in the games he played, he was a beast. He was just shy of 1,000 yards and only had 3 touchdowns. So getting back to that Kyren Williams just falling into the end zone in the red zone, I think Nacua is going to get some more touchdowns falling his way this year. But with the addition of an upgraded receiver too, in my opinion, I can also see a lot of touchdowns going to Davante. So I
Yep.
think this is a little overpriced, is how I'm looking at this. And I love him. I think he's a phenomenal guy. I gave him a boost in PPR. But where this is for ESPN, it's a little overpriced to me.
Okay. Yeah, I would not say overpriced at all because if he is healthy the full year, he is going to easily make Diva 4. Okay. Last year, he missed 6 games and portions of 2 others, like we said, and still had 990 yards and only 3 touchdowns, like you talked about. There's going to be progression there. If he's
Mhm.
fully healthy, he has the ability to be a top 3, top 4 wide receiver without a doubt. He handles so much target share. Once he was, after week 10, once he was full go, he handled 37% of the target share on this offense with 11.3 targets per game. That is insane. I think that leads the league, minus maybe Davante with New York. I don't know. But, Kua, it's really about his touchdowns and health. That's the really things you can harp on. He needs to be healthy, and he hasn't been in his young career so far. So those things are tough to predict. So I'm not going to predict on those things. I'm going to say he's healthy all year, and therefore he's going to make that Diva 4 and he's going to do well because he's an amazing wide receiver, an amazing PPR machine. He's going before Malik Neighbors and Amon-Ra St. Brown. What are your thoughts on that, though? It is
Yeah,
interesting.
so I mean, you're breaking down here. You got Chase, Jefferson, CD, and then Puka. Puka, Neighbors, Amon Ra, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, AJ Brown. I just would struggle to take him over those guys. I can see the case for it, but I think I'd be higher on Neighbors than probably Collins and Brian Thomas. But I think he's in that tier. I'm finding it hard to want to draft him over those guys. Davante
Okay.
Adams, I think Davante Adams is still a great receiver. They'll probably use him quite a bit. I'm also curious to see how they're going to use these guys. Do you think Puka is going to be 100% on the outside and you'll have Davante kind of filling in with Tutu in the slot type thing with some motion? Or what's your thought there?
I think they're going to have Davante on the outside catching some eyes, and I think they're going to move Nacua all over Hack. I think he's going to be on the outside, the inside. They're going to move him all around. They're going to motion him across that offense. They like to have a lot of motion within that McVay offense. So I think they move him all over Hack just to see what defenses are going to do to it, and that's going to play to his favor. And having some eyes on Davante with that safety over the top, having to watch him, I think this helps Neighbors quite a bit, actually. Or
Cool.
sorry,
Helps Cool.
Puka.
Yeah, I just don't ever see a repeat of a 37% target share. So I see
Well,
that going down.
I mean, even if it goes down a couple percentage points, it's still incredible. If that's 30% or more, which I think it will be, it's still insane.
I mean, I think
target
that
share.
was a product of they were behind in a lot of games. They were behind on in the beginning of the season with their win-loss and a poor performance from Cooper Kupp and really lack of other good receiving options is kind of why I
Yeah,
see this 106 targets in the games that he played.
yeah,
So, but I mean, I get it. He is elite. He is a sexy guy to watch and have in your lineup. So I'm by no means, doubting him here. I just feel like his best case is kind of priced in.
yeah. All right, fair enough. Let's talk about the guy across from him, and Davante Adams finished as diva number 12 last year, despite splitting the season between two different teams. This year, he's projected wide receiver 13. So, although he's 32 years old, they're not expecting him to fall off a cliff yet. ADP 40th overall. What's really interesting about this with Tay is this is the first time in career where he's not the true standout alone wide receiver number one on the offense.
I mean, you could
Last year
make
was
a
close.
case last year with G. Wilson.
No, because Rodgers took care of that by throwing him the ball nonstop and pretending that Wilson didn't even exist on the team in the second half of the
Yeah, I
season.
mean, a lot of that was just favorites. That wasn't necessarily about their stand-up talents as wide receivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but I guess from a production standpoint, it doesn't matter. I mean, that was the bottom line.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think he's going to want to make one more Super Bowl push with this team. So I think he has a great year. I think he does pretty solid. However, wide receiver 13, yeah, it's paying a lot for a 32-year-old wide receiver on another new team. I mean, this is his third team in a year and a couple of months. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, the combos that we talk about, Chase and Higgins, CD and Pickens, and
Yep,
then Puka and
JJ and
Adams.
JJ
And
Addison.
I think these guys are definitely up there. ESPN's got him at wide receiver 13, so that's just after it goes Higgins, McConkey, Adams, Tyreek, Scary Terry, Mike Evans. So he's sitting around guys that are true ones for their respective offense. Obviously, you have a very smart offensive coach here and a great offense in the last few years. And Adams is just a tough guy to doubt. To be able to be Diva
Yeah,
12 on two different teams in one season is very impressive. He's always been one of the best overall talented receivers, in my opinion.
yeah.
Um,
Especially with one of those quarterbacks being terrible in Las Vegas.
I'm going to also say he delivered top 10 fantasy weeks, which tied for fourth among wide receivers. And he's finished top 15 in fantasy points per game each of the past 10 seasons. And while he won't be the true number one in Los Angeles, there are more than enough targets to go around with Matt Stafford and McVay. So I like that. And I see him also getting a good amount of touchdowns. You're going to have to just see who gets more of the targets and how it looks. But I see both these guys being very productive. But I do feel a little bit like it's all priced in.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely priced in. The fact that you could get, a wide receiver one on a different team and that this team does like to run the ball tells me it's a little steep for what I want to pay for him at this age. But the other thing is Cooper Kupp being gone, that's 100 targets now vacated from this offense. And I'm sure not all 100 can go to Puka Nacua, even if Matt Stafford wants it that way.
Yeah, interestingly enough, ESPN has Adams with 2 more touchdowns than Nacua
Yep.
on the season.
And I can see that. And I could see that because in the red zone, he can throw him that high ball and say, "Go get it, boy."
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's back to the touchdowns. Like, they're not all going to be breakout touchdown candidates, right? Like, including Kyren Williams. So you have to take them away from someone. But I do think Nacua does have a lot more than last year. I'm fine with a 7-ish range. Davante Adams, 9-ish. I mean, I'm fine with that also. It's just these are, I think, being priced in here is how I'm generally looking at it. And there could be some stumbles, especially early on with Stafford and Adams just connecting, working on their timing, their routes, etc. Like Rodgers and Adams last year, I mean, they played together for a long time. So for them to
Mm-hmm.
come in and have some of those timing things, I think that was a lot easier. And, they bunked together, right? They're going to be on the same page. They're both competitive guys. Like they're going to do it. Whereas Stafford right now, I don't think he's even at training camp. So in the beginning of the season,
He's there.
I could see another slow start is how I could look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the back shoulder fades are not going to be as you're not going to be able to do that every other drive like they did. So you're telling me he needs to bunk up with Stafford? They need to be
I
roommates in order to be
think they need to
prolific.
bunk up, right? Have some late night, some games, some bonding experience, whatever their cocktails
Stafford
are,
ain't playing
their
no
golden horns or whatever they're drinking over there.
Stafford ain't playing no video games. He's 37 years old.
Well, whatever they got to do.
All right.
All right. So then the other guy, next man we got here is Tutu. Why don't you talk about Tutu?
Finished as wide receiver 86 last year, projected wide receiver 88, so about the same. ADP somewhere in the 300s, so undrafted for the most part. Not really someone I'm worried about. And with Tay and Nakua on this team, I mean, that's going to be 60% of the targets just with those two guys alone. And then, a little tight end action, a little running back action. There's not a lot to go around here for Tutu. If one of those guys goes down, he could have some deep value. Outside of that, I'm not too worried about Tutu at all. Yeah, he's not a fantasy option for me.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as a two pony show, and
Yeah.
it's pretty priced in my opinion. But if you want to take one, if you see some upside one way or another, totally fine with that. Or if you're just, you want somebody who you think is more of a guaranteed lock for a top 10 receiver, and that's Nakua, I'm fine with that too.
Yep.
What do you make of the tight end room here? Why don't you break that down for us?
Well, honestly, not much of it due to what we just said. Again, not enough targets to go around, and the fact that there's two guys on this team who are going to get some split targets between Higbee and Terrance Ferguson. Higbee projected as tight end 30. Both these guys are going ADP well after 200, so basically undrafted. I'm really not looking at either one of these guys. If for some reason, the rookie Ferguson takes on early and gets some target share early, then I'd be curious to keep him on a watch list. But Higbee is getting old, man. He's in his 10th NFL season. Missed most of last year from a bad knee injury that he had in the 2023 playoffs. So not someone I'm really worried about. That's a big knee injury to come back from at his age in his 10th season. So again, I'm pretty much out on both these tight ends unless Ferguson jumps out of the gates and all of a sudden is getting 5 to 8 targets a game from Stafford somehow early on, which again I do not see.
Okay. Yeah. Higbee is an older guy. What is he, about 32? Is that what we have here?
Give or
Coming
take.
off a knee injury, that's going to be a tougher fantasy, but he is kind of the established tight end here. And I'm curious to see how they'll work him in with the rookie Ferguson. Um, Ferguson is a very talented pass catching tight end out of college. Fast. He ran a 4.46 at the combine.
That's not bad
And
for a tight end.
yeah, that's pretty good for a tight end.
That's cooking.
And he posted 1,500 yards across 53 games at Oregon. So, I mean, he is a talented passing catch tight end. And I do think
Yeah.
maybe like year 2, year 3, he could be somebody that could start to show up more for fantasy as a tight end option.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just going to have to be something to watch at this point.
Yeah, or Tay or Nakua goes down, and then Stafford's got to get the ball elsewhere. I could see the rookie tight end stepping up then.
Yeah. Okay. But in
Let's
general,
talk
I'm probably
about.
just avoiding these guys for now.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But let's talk about someone I'm very excited to talk about because I owned him last year, and boy, does he love to fall into that end zone. Kyren Williams finished as RB6, projected as RB10. Current ADP is around 26. I love this cat for a lot of reasons, but the most important being over the last 2 seasons, he had over 610 touches, which is third most in the NFL over the last 2 years. He crushes it in volumes, yards, and especially touchdowns every year. In the red zone, they just like to hand him the ball 3 times in a row. They love just handing him the ball off and saying, you go do your thing and get it done. And he is trying for a new contract right now, which is going to be interesting. We'll see if he gets that bag or not. But I love this cat. I think he's, at RB10, I think he's a steal. If you can get him as your RB2, you are going to be one happy camper.
Yeah, Kyren Williams is a phenomenal running back, and he's been kind of more one of the underrated guys in fantasy, I think, the last 2 years for how he's performed and his ability to get in the end zone. So I totally get that. Last year he had almost 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns.
Whew,
So
that is a lot.
while I'm glad, we were able to bank that when we could, I now see the pendulum swinging back to other players. He is also a smaller guy for how hard, like he runs very physical, very strong. It's really impressive. But, with his size and how he runs, there has been some injuries, and I could see he's a higher risk, in my opinion, for some of those additional injuries. And I just see a probability of less touchdowns on the year. It's going to go to other parts of the offense. Last year, we talked about Nacua being out for 7 weeks. So, of course, you're going to give this guy the ball more, especially in the red zone if he can get it done.
Yeah,
I will
McVay
say,
sticks to the run. Oh, yep, sorry.
I will say last year we were all a little worried about Blake Corum taking some of the workload, and it didn't happen. Like it's still Kyren Williams being a stud, and it was his show. So they drafted another running back this year, so they got two guys behind him that can fill in. I think right now they're just depth pieces on the offense. But I would be monitoring how closely these other guys are involved and, how they're like Kyren Williams typically isn't as good in the passing game. Last year, he had 34 grabs, which is pretty light. So if they get someone else in here for pass catching, I know you're going to talk about how Blake Corum didn't catch any passes last year either. But he profiles as more of a third down back, in my opinion. Okay.
Okay.
What else do you want to say about
Okay.
Kyren?
I mean, I love the guy. The biggest thing I want to say about him is his contract. If they pay him $33 million a year, or sorry, for the next 3 years, he's absolutely still going to be the main bell cow back in this offense. He's one of the few bell cows remaining in NFL football. And if they pay him that money, he's going to continue to absorb 300, touches a season, which is what you want in fantasy football.
And you think he's built well enough for 300 touches in between the tackles as hard as he runs?
Absolutely. He just did it the last 2 years. I don't know what your concern is with his injury or his size or anything. He just did it the last 2 years. He did it.
Yeah.
He's only 25 years old, so he's going to do it again.
Okay.
And a fresh 10 milli sitting in his bank account, that'll help him run a little faster or not. You never know.
I believe he's had some concussions.
I'm not worried about his injuries. If you're getting 610 touches over the last 2 years, you're healthy enough to be on the field for all of the season.
Okay. So let's talk about him. ESPN has got him at RB10. Obviously, last year he finished a little better than that. Let's look at the guys around him. So we go currently RB6, Genty, Taylor, A-Chain, Jacobs. Would you draft him above any of those guys? Because for me, it's probably a no.
The Colts offense scares me with Jonathan Taylor. Is Jonathan Taylor a better, more productive fantasy running back? Yeah, probably. But that offense scares me with the question mark at quarterback and then being able to even get into the red zone for a rushing touchdown to be had. Genty is still a question mark. I know everyone's high as heck on him. Those two guys, I probably wouldn't, but I could take Kyren in front of them. Those other guys are just too overvalued where I just wouldn't take those other guys. So I would wait a bit to get someone like Kyren due to his proven volume and proven touchdown ability. What do you think?
Okay. I think I'm in a similar mindset here. I like Jacobs and A-Chain for sure. I could make a case for Taylor and Genty just being a rookie. And then after that goes Bucky Irving, James Cook, Kenny Walker, Chase Brown.
I like him in front of all those. Bucky Irving could be thrown in maybe in front of him, but outside of that, I like him in front of all those other ones. I know you like Chase Brown in the mix on that, but
okay, well, he's being drafted around 26 overall. So, I guess there is a world where you can get him as your RB2.
Yeah.
which I think is very sexy, obviously.
Yeah. That's
Are
amazing.
you
You go
happy with
Diva.
him as your RB1?
Yes. Happy enough. But you have to get another close second. You'd have to get a Chase Brown or a Bucky Irving right after
Okay.
him.
Okay.
But think about it this way: if you go Diva first over, like in your first round, and then you get one of those, top 5 to 8 running backs, and then he snakes back to you, and you get Kyren as your RB2. That's not bad.
Yeah, I think that's the best scenario for that for sure.
Hmm.
All right. Why don't you got anything else to say on Kyron? We know you're pretty high
No, I
on
do
him.
not. I also don't have much to say about these other two cats, but we can.
Yeah, I mean Blake Corum is pretty much last year. He just proved he's a backup, and we'd like to see him on the field a little bit more this year. Last year he had 58 rushes, 200 yards, averaged 3.6 yards a clip, 7 catches, 58 yards. So you can't do anything with that for fantasy. It's hard to even see how good he is as a rusher in the NFL with those numbers. And then obviously they drafted Hunter. Um, he was a fourth round selection this year, and I mean this year was very loaded with running back talent. So it's gonna be really fun to see how these running backs all perform in the NFL when they get their chances. And I
Yeah.
think he just falls into that category. I want to see him play, and I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is about these two other backs between Corum and Hunter, I don't even like either one as a true handcuff because if something were to happen to our boy Kyron, I think then the backfield gets split between these two. So then you have two questionable running backs behind them. They're getting split carries. There's no clear guy behind these guys, and Hunter's good enough to easily battle Corum. And the Rams have proven that Corum is not their, next man up, go to great guy. They've proven that. Otherwise, they would give him more carries, and they do not. They give all the carries to Kyren Williams. So it's really kind of Kyren Williams or bust in this backfield unless he goes down and Jarquez has an amazing start to his career.
Yeah, I am tending to agree with that. I can't see them either being a clear handcuff. I think it'd probably be okay, let's make these guys work and see who performs better. And then maybe if one of them is outshining the other, then they'll get a little more work. That's how
Yeah.
I would do it. All
Yep.
right, that's what we got. The fantasy players this week. Coaching, we all know Sean McVay, architect of modern Rams, known for his offensive genius, meticulous game planning ability, connect players, one of the youngest and most successful head coaches in NFL history. And then Mike LaFleur as his offensive coordinator. It's kind of like a Shanahan tree of a zone running, play action, and then these receivers just somehow getting wide open like Puka Nacua and coming out of nowhere and being a game changer.
Hmm.
And then last year, the
Hmm.
defensive coordinator, Chris Shula, also did a phenomenal job with those rookies that they drafted. Like very impressive all the way around.
Yeah. Can't argue that.
I mean, the only thing you could argue was their slow start last year and some of those close games that they lost that they didn't look as good, but then they turned it on toward the end of the year.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, why don't you break down this offensive line?
Yes, sir. Offensive line preseason rank for last year was 9. They finished 9. So they had a little bit of a bumpy ride, but they have some very strong pieces on this offensive line from left to right. Alaric Jackson at left tackle, left guard. You got Steve Avila, Coleman Shelton center, Kevin Dotson right guard, and Rob Havenstein right tackle. What's amazing about this offensive line is their two tackles. My boy Rob Havenstein out of Wisconsin. He's a stud with a great long career. And then Alaric Johnson is also a phenomenal left tackle. So their tackles are rock solid. The only question marks that lie within this offensive line is in the interior. You have Steve Avila and Kevin Dotson returning at the guard spots, and that's really where the question mark is. So I would just say get Kyren Williams to the outside, keep it back in to help Stafford not get murdered, on a pass plays. But this offense line is really solid, especially on the outsides, and they need to be to protect 37-year-old Stafford.
Okay, I'm going to ask,
Yep.
where do you think this team ranks offensive line this year?
I'm gonna give them 12.
12. Okay, that's pretty
Yep.
good.
Yep. Just because the inside's not as great, the outside's phenomenal. But yep, I'm gonna give them 12.
Okay, I'm going to talk about some of the moves. Obviously, the big and sexy one, Davante Adams comes over from the Jets, and then letting go Cooper Kupp, who went off to Seattle. So that's kind of the big one in the receiving room and for fantasy. Jimmy Garoppolo also signed to back up Matt Stafford this year. I mean, whatever weight that has, I guess the offense would be better than if he wasn't there, maybe. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a very proven quarterback for an NFL team. I think he's a fine backup, but he's been pretty mixed in his teams as a starter. And then they've also included some various depth piece at all over the field, honestly. And then the big one is Aaron Donald retired on the defense. I'm not going to talk about any other defensive stuff, but just you got to note the beast has retired. That has been the foundation of this defense for years. Obviously, they got a couple of good defense ends last year that very outperformed. We enjoyed watching them play. And then they also got another let go of another depth piece in Demarcus Robinson. Signed with the Niners. Oh, there you go. There's somebody in San Francisco who may catch the ball toward the beginning of the season. They also re-signed Tutu Atwell to a 1-year deal. I think he's a fine guy in the offense. Not much for fantasy. Is kind of how I look at him.
Yep.
Draft picks?
Yes, sir. Their first pick, which is in the second round, was Terrance Ferguson, that tight end out of Oregon. Ferguson is Oregon's all-time receiving leader among tight ends with receptions, 134. The dude's a wonderful receiving tight end, 4'6", 340, like we talked about earlier. Once he gets a year under his belt, he could absolutely be a very prominent tight end in the NFL. Okay. Outside of that, they went edge rusher, running back in Jarquez, D-tackle, linebacker, and then finished with wide receiver. Hunter runs a 4.44. Jesus, a lot of fours. 4.44 40-yard dash. So he's definitely got some speed out there. We already talked about him. But yeah, they didn't have a lot of draft picks. We'll see what Terrance Ferguson can do, though. He's going to be the one to watch this year for fantasy purposes.
Kim, what do you got? Give me your final fantasy thoughts on the Rams for 2025. Who you high on? Who you buying? Who you selling?
Always buying Kyren Williams and always buying Puka Nacua. But Puka Nacua needs to stay healthy in order for that price to be justified. So it's gonna be interesting if he can stay healthy. It's gonna be a great year for these guys. Great defense, like we talked about. We'll see what Tay does within Stafford. That should be fun for them. But I want to talk about something even more exciting because next episode we are headed to Lambeau Field and we're talking about the Green Bay Packers.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Football Channel. We will catch you guys in Green Bay next time.